Warwick SU's spring election campaigning is well underway. With cardboard plastered across campus, candidates embarking on gruelling hall tours and pushing their message on social media, the battle to become next year's sabbatical officer team is heating up. To help you make an informed decision and get to know the candidates, we interviewed both of the students running for president. The following is our chat with James Butler.
Across campus, online and on 12:51 AM. This is your student radio station.
Brilliant. I'm now joined by James Butler, who is running to be president of Warwick Students' Union. James, thank you for joining me for this interview.
No problem.
We're just going to start the interview by going through some sort of general questions about why you want the role, that kind of thing. We'll move on to some more specific questions and then have some more fun questions at the end, if that's okay with you.
Sounds great.
Fantastic. So the first general question, what made you want to run for election in the first place? What was your motivation for this?
Well, I'm sure as any candidate would tell you, they think they're a good part for the role. They think they can make positive changes, and I do believe I can do that. But one of the concerns I had was a rumour, and a quite correct rumour as it turned out, was my opponent, Liam Jackson, was running unopposed. Right. And that did concern me a little bit. In a proper democracy, there needs to be a bit of opposition. There needs to be something to challenge it and debate things. And I thought I could be essentially that instrument.
Yeah. So do you if you're running then to make sure that Liam is opposed, do you think you can win?
Well, it's not solely just to oppose him. I think I can run.
Good job, yeah.
As for my chances, I think I has a good chance as anybody, with different circumstances, of course, but really when it comes down to it, it's what your manifesto is, what you want to change, and I think I have quite a comprehensive list of what I want to do.
Okay. What do you think that you specifically can bring to the role of president?
Specifically to me, well, for the past few years now, I can't give you a specific. It's been sort of graduates running. I think fundamentally I have quite a different experience as a current student. Yeah. And also, there's sort of been a cycle, almost ritual, like the education officer becomes the president. And by means of that, it means they essentially are holed up here for a year. Okay. Whereas that's not the case for me. I'm not a sabbatical officer.
You're a fresher, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. So what are your key manifesto pledges for the coming year? What would you say your top... So I said to Liam top 3 and then he gave me a top 5, so you can have a top 5 as well. It seems fair.
Well, it's an interesting question because I never used the term priority. Yeah. Now, because essentially I think to myself, my whole manifesto is my priority. Sure. In saying that, though, I think that there is a pressing issue currently with crime against Warwick students just outside campus, i.e. Canley. There's been a spike in it. Yeah. And whoever's the president, even the current, that has to be dealt with right now. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't already, that would be the top one priority, is the safety of the student population. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Do you want to... Oh, yeah.
I
will go through...
yeah, fantastic.
One of these things concerns me is Stagecoach, and really it's monopoly on transport in and out of campus. Mm-hmm. So what I want to do is create a large-scale car-sharing scheme, and also more parking to facilitate that, and also more parking in general, I think, is a positive thing. If that could get off the ground, and if a lot of people went into it, it could be a viable alternative. Mm-hmm. Also, I want to give greater independence to sports and societies. Yeah. The way I think about it is, what does the SU or sabbatical office have to go to the heads of sports and societies and say, we know how best to run your society or your sports. Mm-hmm. And if possible, I'd like to sort of redress the balance, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I think I got one more.
I think you're up to 3 or 4. I've lost.
Let's see.
It's entirely up to you how many you want to do, because I've lost count.
Oh well, I've got so many manifesto points. Student health and well-being is one of my main. You said I has the use priority, but again, student health and student well-being should be tantamount and the top thing to worry about. Yeah. So student health, whether that's physical, mental, sexual health, I want to make that a priority of the SU and priority in campaigning. I want the people to look out for that. Some fun, my fun answer, I guess, for a last one is bring back the cone.
Bring back the cone.
Bring back the cone. I mean,
From
they
Gibbet Hill.
they said it's going on a tour, but it stayed there.
Stayed at Gibbet Hill at the moment.
Just put it on Central Campus.
Hopefully it'll be back next year with any luck. But
yeah, they could bring it back, but I mean, just bring it back now.
So one of the big issues that are facing students at the moment, and we see it every day at the moment down by the bus interchange, is the UCU strikes. And I just wondered what your opinion on the UCU strikes was, and also what you would say to students and staff that are worried about the effect that it will have, especially for students that are worried about the education effect it will have for them if they're in their final year or with dissertations and exams approaching.
Well, this has been a bit of a dilemma for me. Now, the distinction I make is between supporting the cause and supporting the strike. Because regardless whether you support the cause or not, the strike is intended to hurt students. That is the intended goal and intended purpose, to pressure the government into getting the reforms and changes they want. Now, as you've said and brought up, the third years have a potential problem with graduating. They have talked about extending strikes into exam season, which is going to cause even more disruption. And just in general, there's been a lot of disruption from the strikes. Essentially, the way I think about it is they're looking out for their own interests, and students should look out for their own. And that's why I have a problem with the strike fundamentally, because it hurts students. But the cause, it's not as clear-cut.
Right, okay, so you're against the strike, but the cause you're a little bit more undecided on.
Yeah, I'm understanding. I understand. I see what's happening with the pensions, and I see it could be trouble laying ahead.
Yeah.
But I think, as a student, we should sort of be saying to ourselves, well, we should try and get them back on the negotiating table.
Fantastic. And so something that's an issue every year is space on campus, just generally. And obviously each year the university seems to take on more students than in the years previously, without necessarily expanding the number of study spaces available, the number of parking spaces, as you mentioned earlier, and the number of accommodation spaces available. And often it means that postgrads are sharing, and people out in Westwood are sharing rooms for the first part of the first term. And I was just wondering what your sort of intention regarding this is.
Well, yes, study spaces has really been an issue as far as I've gone back into looking into manifestos from years back.
Yeah, absolutely.
It always seems to crop up. I support the efforts to expand study spaces. There's been calls for a second library, and I think, well, that's great. But it doesn't really help us here and now. If I became president, what I'd try and implement is sort of utilise the seminar rooms, lecture rooms a bit better, and lobby for building and expanding just in general, perhaps specifically for a second library. But there are a lot of other study spaces, like the learning grids that we have here and in Leamington.
Yeah.
So we can make utilisations, and there are other places that we can build, but I'm certainly not against building more spaces, of course.
And in terms of parking spaces, you mentioned expanding car share. Would you aim to sort of lobby the university to create more parking spaces? Because at the moment, the art centre car park's due to be knocked down to make way for a new humanities building.
Yes.
So it's looking like car parking is going to become a real issue. I'm just wondering how you sort of balance that with your policy of car share.
Well, with my policy of car sharing, what I try and do is make it a twofold thing, because it's really hard to have the car sharing without the more parking.
Spaces, yeah.
The greatest thing would be to lobby the university to build parking spaces just outside, A more practical solution to that perhaps would be parking literally just off campus, and a short parking ride with perhaps the shuttle buses to bring people back and forth. I think that may be a bit of a solution to the problem, but yes, parking is a key issue. It's one of the issues, and I think it, as you say, is going to get worse, as it doesn't seem like more is being built. In fact, less is.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we come on to a couple of specific questions about your manifesto, then just finally for the general section, what in your mind makes the ideal SU president? What is the qualities of an SU president?
Well, I think someone's got to be completely and utterly dedicated to the role, in terms of you've got to take yourself out of it. It's not you, it's the role, and you're a representative. I know I've heard people over the years sort of say, like, petty student politics and what have you. I think the president's got to be completely impartial, and has got to just simply say, I'm not in it for myself. I'm not here to put my own sort of agenda out and step on this soapbox and give myself a opportunity to say these things. I think they've got to say, I'm going to do whatever the students ask of me. I'm going to argue and I'm going to fight for whatever the students want. So I think really you've got to take yourself out of the role.
Okay, and just coming on to your more specific questions then. So I had a read of your manifesto this morning, same as I did with Liam's. You mentioned in your manifesto about ensuring, your biggest one was ensuring that societies and sports clubs are more independent from the SU. And I was just wondering, because obviously societies and sports clubs are largely funded by the SU.
Yeah.
What exactly it was that you wanted to be separated from the SU?
Yes, I want to make this clear because I have spoken to some people without explaining it. When I say more independence, they go, "Oh, what about funding?" And I absolutely don't want to take funding away. I don't want it to be sort of financially independent because well, if I could, I would. But I mean, I don't want to take that away from people. Really, it's administrative independence is what I'm trying to get. As I said before, I don't really think the SU should be sort of delving into matters or issues. And really, they could deal with it themselves and they could get on with it themselves. Every sport, every society is different. And we're sort of the SU is a catch-all sort of term or a building, so to speak. So I think if we just give more powers over administration, I think if we, flexible kit requirements, that's a thing I've heard crop up over and over again, and paperwork, I hear it sort of piles up for societies and sports, and if possible I'd like to streamline that, reduce that, and there has been a big push this year to digitise that. I hope to see that go even further.
Go more paperless.
Yeah.
What specifically then do you think that the SU needs to sort of stay out of society's way in regards with? Because obviously there is kind of a lot of paperwork that comes with running a society, but a lot of it is to do with sort of making sure that the health and safety of the society is okay, and making sure that the society is run along the democratic lines that it needs to. Well, a lot of people would agree it needs to be.
Yes, I certainly. That's why I always say sort of reduce and streamline, because we can't get rid of health and safety. That's just one of the facts of life. We can't get rid of that. But and nor would we want to get rid of that. But in terms of like tours and stuff like that, there's such a burden of proof, perhaps is not quite the right term. There's a high threshold of what the SU requires from sports and societies. And whilst I wouldn't want to get rid of that to dangerous levels, I would want to make it easier on sports and societies to organise things and just to get on with their general business.
Yeah. Okay, and one of the other things that I picked up on from your manifesto is on the same point as the cone, I think, is bringing in Wetherspoons to campus. And I did wonder whether, is this something you're serious about? Because obviously a lot of the things that the SU has are there to make the SU money that can be invested into students. I'm wondering if this is a serious one or whether...
Well, really all of them are serious, some to a lesser degree. Like the cone, whilst the cone is fun, why not bring it back to campus? I mean, what's the point in not having it at campus? It's quite a big... But in terms of Wetherspoons, I think it's a lot of things. It's one thing a lot of students really like, and bringing more businesses onto campus, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. And also, I think it plays into one of my policies, is I want to sort of reduce student costs. Food and drink costs, work accommodation, transport, what have you, and introducing perhaps a bit more competition. On campus would be sort of the kick that people need to reduce these costs and sort of get a bit more competitive.
Fantastic. And so we're just going to move on then to your more fun questions. Just
of
about
course.
Sort of getting to know you as a person, getting to know you as a candidate, and so that people can sort of vote, not based on who you are as a person, but they know a little bit more about you.
Sure.
So what's your takeaway of choice?
Takeaway of choice? Well, it's a very simple answer. It's probably a kebab. A kebab, I'm not going to lie.
The Vialis, are you a fan of the late night Vialis? Or?
Vialis is quite nice if I'm out in Lem, but if I'm here on campus, I'm not going to lie, the kebab van knows my order at this point. Hi guys. No, but I'm not against other takeaways. I just have a preference.
You love a kebab. Okay, fantastic. Favourite film?
Oh, that's a toughie. Again, with priorities, I don't like naming my... let's see. They could like...
If you've got a day in bed and you're like ill or something, you've got a bit of ice cream, what are you watching?
That's a really tough question because I don't have like one film where I watch and repeat. It's usually a lot of films that there's always those fun films you like to watch, like Groundhog Day. That's always a fun thing to watch.
Okay.
Then there's dramas like Shawshank Redemption, or it's different moods for different days, I suppose.
No problem. Next one could be controversial. Let's see. Remembering where you are, Raw or the Ball? That's the big question.
Oh.
The Ball are just down the corridor. So I can give them a shout if you want. They can come in.
Well, should I be like every other politician and play to my audience? I love
give it a try.
I love the Raw. I love it. It's amazing. It's fantastic. The Ball. What?
Who are the Ball? Yeah. What even are they? The Ball are fantastic. The Political Idol.
Oh, Political Idol now. Let's see. That's a difficult one. So many to choose from. I could always go for the classics. People say Churchill, his resolve, Attlee, his reforms.
Interesting. Liam said Attlee as well.
Well, I think he's come back to prominence. Jeremy Corbyn has sort of played on that and sort of made people remember his reforms. Controversially, people could bring up Thatcher. Again, people like to see people when they pick these choices. I'd probably go for Churchill. The war leader, but people generally go for resolve and reform, and those are two characteristics I respect and would try and repeat. A lot of words there.
Fantastic. And when it's not campaign week, where would you normally be found on campus?
Where would I not on campus? Okay.
And your room doesn't count because that's too easy.
Oh, that is a very easy answer. Well, of course, as a good student, be in the library and the humanities. Barring that, it'd probably be either Terrace Bar or the Duck.
Terrace Bar's not bad.
Terrace Bar's not bad, especially you go for the Duck if you want to get a bite to eat. You go to Terrace Bar for the bus stop. I believe it's
bus stop. Yeah, 40.
Bus stop. Yeah, you can't beat the old bus.
Outlets are available.
Other outlets. I'm not sponsored by the Terrace Bar. Just good drinks, good prices.
Brilliant, James Butler. Thank you very much.
No problem.